Living with food allergies can be incredibly difficult in modern society. It really doesn't just affect eating, it affects your whole life. Everything from, oh, I'm gonna go hang out with friends, to, oh, I'm gonna go do anything, really. Because if you think about it, in modern society, food is everywhere. There's food at the movies, mostly buttered popcorn, which is particularly problematic if you have a dairy allergy, because then you can't have regular butter. There's food just about everywhere you eat. Well, actually there's food everywhere you eat, but just about everywhere you go, there's food. And a big part of that is a college campus, at least for college students. You go to campus and you're there for however many hours a day. Well, most likely during that time you're going to want to eat something. There's lots of options usually. For example, at Metro, there's Subway, there's iPie, Chinese food, McDonald's, even a salad place. But if you have food allergies, you probably can't eat any of that. And that is a big problem for a lot of people. You have to bring your lunch every single day that you are there. Now that is just a minor inconvenience. But the major problem? Colleges don't do anything to support students with food allergies. Or at least most colleges don't. There are a few that do, particularly through a program called FAIR. One way students can cope with their food allergies is in a cafeteria dining hall style. You're able to see how your food is being prepared and what's going into it. But one thing you might not consider about that, cross-contamination. That's right, folks, cross-contamination. It's a major issue for food allergy students. Say you have a gluten allergy. Oh, I'm gonna go get some fries from McDonald's. Well, potatoes are naturally gluten-free, so therefore fries should be gluten-free, correct? Well, not necessarily. While your fries may be gluten-free, the oil that they are fried in can be contaminated by other items that have been fried in it. And that is a particularly interesting issue to address, because you have to have a specific gluten-free fryer to fry those fries that you are going to eat. Some restaurants, such as Red Robin, do this, of course. And it's a great asset to students with food allergies, or anyone with food allergies for that matter, to have a restaurant with gluten-free options, with allergen-free options, and with the ability to adapt to your particular set of allergies. One thing that you might not think about with food allergies is eating out. Well, okay, you can go to some restaurants, like, as I mentioned, Red Robin. They're particularly good with food allergies. But not all restaurants are that way. For example, some might say something is gluten-free, but it might not actually be gluten-free when you get it, depending on how they cook it and everything like that. Not to mention the fact that some people just tend to not pay any attention to allergies, or they might even ask, is it a real allergy? Well, okay, that's fair. Some people have a gluten-free preference, as they call it, where they prefer foods that are gluten-free, while others, like myself, have a gluten allergy. Allergy being the key word there. So while they might make something that is gluten-free in the same pot as they made something else earlier with the same water, particularly pasta, for a gluten allergy, you have to use a clean pot with clean water that you haven't used before with something that is not gluten-free. And that's not something that everybody's going to think about. Some schools have programs in place, for example, a gluten-free area or an allergen-free area for students with food allergies. One school, Grand Valley, actually has a self-serve station. Now, because it's self-serve, they can't guarantee that it's 100% allergen-free, but it provides people with allergies a safer alternative. They also have things like a gluten-free waffle machine or a gluten-free toaster. That's something you might not always think about. If you have a gluten-free bread and you put it in a regular toaster that has a bunch of crumbs and everything else from regular toast, well, there you have some cross-contamination. And that can actually affect a student's life significantly. Depending on the severity of their allergy, they could have symptoms of pain and general discomfort, all the way up to death, depending on the allergy, particularly with peanut allergies, which is one of the most common allergies in modern society. Peanut allergies are typically something that's lifelong, not something that you outgrow as you get older. And if you have a peanut allergy, it can vary. You can have people that can be around peanuts all day, no problem, and people that can't even walk in the same room as a peanut without having an anaphylactic reaction, which can lead to death. And that is a very serious issue. Food allergies are estimated to affect 15 million Americans, which is approximately 4% children and 1% of adults. Studies suggest that the prevalence of food allergies has increased in the last 2 decades as well. That's from an article in the New England Journal of Medicine. An 18-year-old basketball player with known peanut allergy, moderate, persistent, controlled asthma, has just played in a collegiate game. Cough, shortness of breath, and sneezing developed 10 minutes after he ingests a homemade sugar cookie at a party after the game. He immediately takes 50 milligrams of diphenhydramine, but hoarseness, throat tightening, worsening shortness of breath, and rhinorrhea with copious clear mucus and repetitive emesis continue to progress. He then administers 0.3 milligram of epinephrine with the use of an auto-injector into his upper lateral thigh and 4 actuations of an albuterol inhaler. The use of these agents results in an immediate relief of the throat tightness and a full resolution of other symptoms within 15 minutes. But could this have been avoided? Now imagine that this student had just eaten lunch at their school cafeteria and are planning to go to class. Instead, they're headed to the hospital. That's not something any student wants to experience. Not only are you missing class, but that'll also lead to medical bills. And if you're a college student, oftentimes money is tight. You're not going to want to have to pay an ambulance and doctors and all of that just because you ate something. Another issue with food allergies is epinephrine injectors are a little bit hard to get in the United States due to a shortage. Now this medicine can literally save someone's life. And if you don't have that, what are you going to do? Well, you could die, or you can pay high medical fees for an ambulance and a hospital visit. Those are pretty much your only options. Now the other problem with that is the auto-injectors, the ones that I found online at least, cost about $700 for a 2-pack. Not a cheap price to pay, by any means. Another potential problem with food allergies is when students go away to college, because they have all these new freedoms. They're going to be going out with friends. They might not be thinking about their food allergy all the time. Now, if you're not thinking about it, it's still there. It'll still affect you, but you might not think about it until it's too late. One good tip for students with food allergies is to talk with their campus's disability services office, as they can oftentimes help you with your college process with your food allergies. I didn't know about this until I started doing my research for this project, but food allergies can actually be covered by the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is an act that basically is designed for people with disabilities. Now, food allergies are not always considered a disability, but for a college they can be. And when you're at school, you need to have support for that disability, whether that be a special food program that allows you to get food that you can eat safely, or a restaurant on campus you can go to, or even something as simple as a support group that can help you deal with your food allergies and find people with similar allergies or people with allergies in general that you can be friends with because you know that they won't judge you for your allergies. Because it's important to have a social life in college. But if you've got food allergies, some people might judge you for that. Students also need to speak with their friends and also resident advisors if they're living in a dorm, so that way they know about the food allergy. So that way if the student has an allergic reaction, they can do something about it rather than just watching their friend or their roommate or anything like that die because of their food allergy. And that's not something that anybody wants to see happen. At least I wouldn't imagine. Unless maybe you're a murderer, but I can't imagine. There's too many murderers that are in college. Yeah, you never know. But students also have to deal with the stress of clubs and teachers and everybody else like that trying to give away free food. You go to a club and there's food there, say cheese pizza. Okay, if you've got a gluten allergy, you can't have the crust. If you've got a dairy allergy, you can't have the cheese. If you've got a meat allergy to a certain meat, you might not be able to eat the meat on the pizza. What does that all mean? That means you can't eat the pizza, which means you don't feel included because you're being excluded from part of that club because you can't have the food that they are providing. And this is really common at my school, at least. Clubs love to advertise that they have snacks or food or anything like that. And I've even seen it a couple of times in workplaces where they'll have, say, a pizza party to celebrate something, or a barbecue, or anything like that. That can exclude students from being part of the overall club because they can't eat it. And to me, that's a big issue. Because if you can't participate in that, well, then you have to sit there and watch everyone eat in front of you, and that's no fun. So overall, colleges need to do more to support their students with food allergies and help raise awareness for food allergies so that maybe people won't be trying to literally shove food down your throat when you're allergic to it and could die from eating it.